Hey everyone, before we jump into today's video, please like this video and subscribe Positive Voices. Let's begin. My father demanded I attend my golden brother's wedding, threatening to cut my tuition. They were shocked when I revealed I earned more than him. My father has always treated me as a child in the family that is overlooked. He was simply infatuated with my brother. He continues, you know what? I don't care if you got accepted to some prestigious college. You have to go to the local college because we don't want your brother to be jealous of you. So, you know what, guys? I pretended everything was fine. I replied, know what, Dad? Okay, fine. I'll go to that college on one condition. I get to stay in the dorms. So I lied to him. I pretended to reside in the dorms and attended the prestigious college on a scholarship he was unaware of. But when he finds out, he will erupt. What would you do if the people who had hardly noticed your presence for 3 years suddenly asked you to show up and act like a family member for one day? That would be a very hard scenario, right? I mean, it's always going to be like that with family, especially my own. Let me start at the beginning. My name is Jonas, and if you haven't figured by now, my family is quite dysfunctional. I mean it. That is, if it can even be considered a family. What do you name the individuals who gave birth to you, but then abandoned you when they discovered a better version of you? Can that even be considered family? Instead, then going in circles. Let me state it clearly. I could have had a happy family if my parents had treated both of their children equally. But no, my parents are a bunch of biased jerks who have been treating me as background noise for as long as I can remember, all because my brother Roman was a healthier kid. I mean, Roman was one of those healthy, adorable infants who drew everyone's attention in an instant, whereas I was a scrawny, average-looking one that no one wanted to hold. But should these things influence parents so profoundly that they begin to differentiate between their children? It shouldn't, right? But it was different for my parents, Patrick and Marin. Within a month of Roman's birth, he had become their golden kid, the infant who received universal adulation. I mean, he wasn't outstanding. He was merely the more attractive one, the main character. So everyone was drawn to him, whilst I was usually the supporting character, standing in the background, forgotten. You can imagine how dreadful my childhood must have been. My parents ignored me and just provided for my basic needs, while my egotistical brother let all the attention get to him. Roman grew up as a pampered brat who only cared about himself. So you can picture the kind of relationship we had. I was a shy, introverted kid, and Roman turned out to be a huge fat bully. Could you imagine that? Are you being bullied by your little brother? Yeah, that was the case with me. Roman seemed to have made it his life's mission to make mine unhappy, whether by throwing wild tantrums that caused my parents to spoil my plans or by physically taking away the things I liked. Is this correct? It was a poor scenario in and of itself. Add a set of biased parents to the mix, and you can understand how terrible my upbringing was. My parents were the main reason Roman grew up to be such a brat. While Roman was showered with new toys, attention, and praise, I was never spoiled. My birthdays were a formality. My accomplishments were never particularly significant, and my job in the family was essentially that of a background prop. One time in 3rd grade, I had all A's on my report card. I was thrilled, you know? I figured maybe I'd get a pat on the back or something. But when I presented it to my mother, all she said was, "That's good," as she went on a rave about what a nice little painting Roman had done that we just had to put on the refrigerator. Yes, Roman's wonky dog drawing received center stage, while my straight-A report card was placed in the garbage drawer with the other forgotten papers. So, you know how things were. I felt like the neglected report card, while my brother was lauded for everything. But it wasn't just the small stuff. Oh no, Roman got to decide where we went on family trips, what we ate for dinner, and what we watched on television. Every time I attempted to select something, I was turned down, and that idiot Roman rubbed it in my face to the fullest extent possible. He was a king, and I was nothing more than his servant. So I guess you can see why I wanted to flee this hellhole as soon as I could, and I even had the perfect opportunity. I was looking to pursue a bachelor's degree and was awarded a scholarship to one of the world's finest institutions. It was a very prestigious college, the kind that assures a good career for its students. Getting a scholarship there? Oh, that is a dream. But here's the catch. It was many states away. And like everything else in my life, my parents refused to let me have it. Click share and more to check if there is a part 2. Part 2. Do you want to discover the reason? Of course it was Roman. My parents even suggested that I attend the local institution in our state because it provided a greater opportunity, an option. They reasoned that since Roman, who who was not particularly bright academically, could feel bad that I had the opportunity to enroll at such a prominent college while he did not. I should stay local. What was stopping him? He could have worked his buttocks off, like I did, and received what he desired. However, none of this made sense to my parents. They told me I needed to go to the local college. You see how ludicrous this whole situation was? Somewhere in my mind, I assumed they were doing this to keep me from outshining Roman. It was as if they recognized my potential, but consciously chose to disregard it. It's as if providing me with genuine support would jeopardize Roman's image as the golden child. Why else would they work so hard for me to stay at the local college, while Roman, who was nothing near as ambitious, received unrivaled support? It seemed as if I was not meant to be more successful than him. That was not part of their script. But did I succumb to that foolishness? No. I'd already made significant sacrifices to keep up with the family's wacky, biased antics. But I decided I'd had enough. I told my parents that I would only attend a local college if they permitted me to live in the campus dorms. My parents agreed a little too happily, thinking they persuaded me to stay at the local college. But did they actually? No chance in hell. I accepted the scholarship and relocated to another state, while my parents thought I was attending a nearby college. The nicest aspect was that the prominent college I was admitted to offer the finance course I desired in just 2 years, whereas a local college required 4. So that was ideal since it meant I could graduate earlier than my parents had imagined. Honestly, it was the best decision I've ever made. Not only did I leave the hellhole my parents had created, but this college represented the pinnacle of prosperity. I say this because shortly after graduating, I was offered a 6-figure salary and have been with the company for a year. Things are actually improving for me since I'm on the verge of receiving a promotion. I did it all. The scholarship covered 70% of the fees, and I utilized the money my father contributed to meet other expenses. Now I'm having a fantastic life. My father continues to send me money, believing that I am a student at the local college, and I have not told him to stop. I know it's kind of terrible, but I consider it retribution for the last 3 years. I've had limited communication with my relatives. There were a few checkup calls here and there, as well as 1 or 2 trips to my home over the holidays, to keep them from becoming suspicious. Aside from that, they haven't troubled me too much, and I've been able to avoid them by explaining that I've been busy with my studies. They don't seem to care anyway. I mean, why should they? They had a golden child now. My parents benefited from the fact that the only person they had to care for was no longer in their lives. I was truly satisfied with the setup. It did hurt from time to time that my folks didn't notice I had moved states away. But the melancholy was offset by the relief of not having their toxic presence around me. Truth be told, I did miss having a family. Not a dysfunctional one like mine, but rather the feeling of having a family who genuinely cared about me. Despite my friends and pleasures, I felt that something was lacking in my life. However, until this morning, it appeared difficult to correct. My father called today to tell me that Roman was getting married, and that he needed me there a few days before the wedding to help with the preparations. I was taken aback. Was my father truly urging me to come home? I had been looking forward to this moment for a long time, especially since he told me I was part of the family, and that he wanted everyone to be present for Roman's big day. I truly became emotional. My parents had never acknowledged me as a member of their family. They were primarily concerned with themselves and Roman. But now my father specifically wanted me to attend the wedding. It was overwhelming to receive appreciation from my parents. But then I remembered that these were the ones who had ignored me throughout my childhood. Even today, they were unaware that their eldest son lived states away. Do I really want to return to these people, only to be disregarded again, as I have been my entire life? This is where I find myself in a quandary, and I'd like to ask you all, what would you do if you were in my shoes? I miss my sense of family, and it would be wonderful to have them care about me for once. But the prospect of returning back only to have my expectations shattered again terrifies me. Should I accept their invitation and attend my brother's wedding solely for the sake of family? Or should I stick to my commitment to live far away from them and not allow them to hurt me again? Before we get into that, it's been 2 days, and I've had plenty of time to consider what I should do. In the end, I decided to keep my peace. Even though some of you may disagree with my decision, I elected not to accept my father's invitation to Roman's wedding. And honestly, it feels like the best decision I have ever made. Spoiler alert, my parents haven't changed and never will. Let me continue where I left off in my initial post. After some thinking, I texted my father, just saying that I wouldn't be able to make it. There is no lengthy explanation, no excuses. To be honest, I was not going to come, I expected some reaction, but I didn't expect the manipulation to start so early. Within an hour, my phone was flooded with text messages. First, my mother attempted to guilt-trip me. She inquired if I truly wanted to miss Roman's special day, if I wanted to be that brother, and how disappointed Roman would be if I wasn't present. She went on to say how much it would mean to Roman if his older brother was there. Really? She also attempted to play the game in which you only got one family card. But here's the thing, Roman's big day meant nothing to me, because Roman had never cared about any of my significant occasions. Not one. And yes, you only have one family. Part 3. But only if they behave appropriately. You know? So I informed my mother the same thing. I was not coming. When guilt-tripping failed, my father resorted to his own bizarre tactics. He attempted to keep it calm at first, stating things like how families should stick together on situations like these. When I still didn't move, he decided to play dirty. He called and stated that if I didn't show up for Roman's wedding, they would cease paying my tuition costs. He stated they couldn't afford for people to gossip about how one of their sons wasn't present at such an important event. Essentially, they wanted to maintain the appearance of a happy family for their friends and neighbors. As is customary, everything revolved around appearances. Not about me, not about Roman. But what about how the family was perceived by others? That's when I really lost it. I mean, how selfish could somebody be? Threatening to cease paying my education expenses just so I may attend a wedding. It was incredibly foolish. Even more so, given that I didn't care about any of the money they handed me. I responded by telling my dad, "Go ahead, stop paying the college fees. I'm not coming to the wedding, and nothing you say or threaten will change that." I still hadn't told him that I had graduated a year ago and was living states away with a six-figure salary in a life they could never have provided me. I didn't want them to know how good my life was or where I was because they would ruin everything that was going well. I know I have to tell them the truth, and I will do so shortly. But right now I was having fun. My unwillingness to attend my brother's wedding, despite my father's warnings, enraged him. He spoke about how ungrateful I was, how I've always been difficult, and how Dad planned to withdraw my name from the local college to teach me a lesson. He said it as if it were a huge threat, as if being pulled from a place I'd never even been to would destroy me. He had no idea that the truth was just the opposite. Honestly, I couldn't stop laughing. I could have told him I had never attended the local college, but where's the fun in that, guys? So now I'm simply waiting for my father to go and try to withdraw my name from a college where I was never enrolled. I'm honestly waiting for his reaction when he discovers I no longer need him or his money. That's going to be shocking. And it's only a matter of time before my phone calls with another round of obscenities. I honestly cannot wait. Anyway, I'll keep you all posted on what happens. Until then, so long. Hello, it's Jonas again. I know it's only been a day since my last update, but the never-ending drama of my life has gotten even wilder. After my last post, I had a feeling my father would take my unwillingness to attend Roman's wedding seriously. It turns out I was correct. It all began with a phone call from him this morning, and he was furious. He was irate and wasted no time in asking me where I'd been all this time and what the heck I'd been doing with all the money he provided for my college expenses. It was like witnessing a toddler throw a tantrum because he did not get his favorite toy. Only this time, it was my father who was driven insane by the happenings around him. Apparently, after our last chat, my father went to the local college. Yes, this is when things become really fascinating. He went there to withdraw my name, simply to teach me a lesson. That guy was so crazy that he thought pulling my name from college and suspending my studies would force me to attend Roman's wedding. Clearly, he was wrong. So, obviously, when my father went to local college, he was in for a huge surprise. The local college had no record of my enrollment. It must have been quite the spectacle. My father stood there, attempting to cancel my registration when Jonas was not present at college. I bet the revelation hit him like a blow to the belly. During our call, his bitterness over his momentary humiliation at college was evident. He wanted to know where I had been for the past 3 months and what I had been doing with all that money. But, honestly, the situation was so absurd that I couldn't stop laughing. After more harsh remarks from my father and some waiting on my part, I decided to tell him the whole truth. I told him that I had graduated on a scholarship a year ago and that the money he had been giving for my college tuition had been extremely helpful. Then I dropped the larger bomb. I informed him that I now had a 6-figure salary and was making more than him. When he inquired whether I was kidding, I could tell he was disappointed. But he realized it wasn't a joke. The fact that I was no longer the struggling student he thought I was but rather an independent man with a fulfilling life, must have been a difficult pill for him to swallow. I was ready for whatever came next. As soon as my father understood what I had just said, he erupted, accusing me of treason for keeping him in the dark. He went on about how much he had done for me, only to be confronted with this betrayal. Done so much for me? Was he talking about how he and my mother ignored me for years to focus on their favorite child? Then he came up with the most ridiculous idea imaginable. He said the only way he could forgive me was if I went to Roman's wedding and made sure there was no scandal or gossip about the family. I could not believe it. This individual was still primarily concerned with his image. I don't understand why he's suddenly fascinated with the family's image. It had never disturbed him before. Anyway, I told him I didn't need his forgiveness, and I certainly didn't want to be a part of their ruse, pretending we were all one happy family. My father, still upset, tried to persuade me to attend the wedding. He appeared frantic at this point, but I held my ground. I told him there was no way in hell I'd go to the wedding of the man who devastated my childhood. Not only that, but I informed him I was done with the drama and would cut them off. My father was shocked, but I did not remain silent. I had spent my entire childhood absorbing everything silently, but not anymore. I told him I didn't want any of them to contact me again, and that they could attend their golden son's wedding without me while I enjoyed my life. My father attempted to influence me emotionally again, but this time I wouldn't have it, talking about how I was his kid and how I needed to attend my brother's wedding. But I was finished. I just informed him that he had only one son, since he was the one they all appeared to care about, and that they could keep it that way. As I gladly cut them off, I didn't even give my father another time to respond. I quickly ended the call and blocked his phone. And here's where I am right now, officially cut off from my family's harmful presence. It's a bittersweet feeling, because I never imagined things coming to this. But I am also somewhat satisfied since I know it had to be done. At least now I can live a calm life. And if all goes well, maybe I'll be able to start my own family one day. So it's been more than a month since I shut off communication with my family. I thought I was above all the drama and manipulation, but they clearly couldn't let things go so simply. A few days ago, I received an unexpected call from an unknown number. It was my mother, and she was sobbing uncontrollably. I had banned all their calls, so I was surprised to receive this one. I decided not to hang up on her because I suspected something horrible had happened, but it was nothing like that. She began telling me how much she misses me and how she simply wants her kid back. She stated she didn't care what I or Dad did. None of it mattered to her. She simply wanted me to be a member of the family again. I was perplexed. I mean, where was this energy previously? When I told them I was cutting them off, they didn't seem to mind. And now my mother wanted to patch things up? Don't you think that was a bit suspicious? So I just hung up on her, telling her I'd call her later. I had a sense something wasn't right. So I contacted my aunt, my mother's sister, to see if she had any ideas. What she told me was bizarre, and it verified all of my suspicions. Apparently, Roman's wedding was a complete fiasco, a massive shitstorm. His seemingly beautiful fiancée turned out to be a full-fledged fraudster before the wedding. She persuaded Roman, my parents, and a group of family members to put all their savings into a dodgy once-in-a-lifetime investment opportunity. And guess what? It was all a hoax. She took the money and dipped. There were no weddings. She's gone as of my family's savings. However, it wasn't the end of it. My aunt also informed me that my parents were in even more serious difficulty than I had suspected. Apparently, my father provoked a disturbance with an employee in his family, resulting in a significant loss for his already dying firm. And then everything clicked for me. This is why he was so eager to invite me to the wedding. He wanted to salvage his image by demonstrating how much he treasured his perfect family and all those values. But of course, that did not work. This fiasco between Roman and his fiancée just added to the negative news. So, basically, they're losing money left and right. To make matters worse, they used their house as collateral for a loan in an attempt to salvage the firm. However, this also backfired on them, and now they are likely to lose their home. They had to move into a dilapidated trailer or studio apartment because that's all they could afford. Now everything was plain to me. My mother didn't call because she missed me or wanted me back. They urgently needed me. They realized I was doing well for myself and wanted to use me as a safety net. I understood everything. They were out of options, and I was their only hope. So I wasn't playing that game. I was not going to be dragged back into their mess, especially now that I had seen the whole picture. They didn't care about me because they were too busy catering to Roman and his needs. But here's the catch. My parents are now fighting with Roman because they blame him for everything, for the entire wedding fiasco, for all the money they've lost. It's actually pretty funny. The golden child they built their lives around has ruined everything. And, to be honest, it made me happy that they were finally realizing their mistakes. Anyway, I could care less. I'm staying out of the controversy. After my mother called, I blocked her again. I wasn't going to let her control my emotions. But did this prevent my parents from reaching out? No, absolutely not. They were needy and clingy, refusing to accept that things weren't going their way. My parents eventually showed up at my house. Do not ask me how. I'm not sure how they got the address, but I believe they badgered some of my old friends for information. However, the how does not matter. What matters is that they showed up at my door, reminding me of family values, and that, as their older son, I was their responsibility. And now, somehow they were mine. I slammed the door in their faces, of course. They begged me to help them, claiming they were penniless and had spent their last money on a flight to meet me. That sucked for them, but I wasn't going to help. This is not the end of it. A few days later, Roman arrived at my home, practically crying and pleading for help. He stated that he missed having his big brother in his life. I'm not sure what big brother he's referring to because all I remember is him bullying me. I warned him, but he kept begging, saying Mom and Dad were going to cut him off shortly because they were angry with him for putting them into this problem. It was all for nothing. Roman shared the same fate as my parents. I locked the door in his face, warning him that if any of them returned, I'd call the cops. Since then, I haven't heard from any of them, and I honestly don't care. I am done with this toxic family. I'm a little sad that things with my family have come to this, because the void they created will always be present in my life. But I'm not going to take their trash anymore just for the sake of family. Thank you for watching. If you haven't subscribed yet, please do so and hit the notification bell to stay updated with more shocking real-life stories happening around you.